The Mario Kart series has had a major issue with its presentation for a long time, and that's the fact it's just been kind of boring. Now, don't get me wrong, Mario Kart World does have some pretty bad design of its own, and I'll get to that in a minute, but overall, I do love every entry in this series, and I have plenty of positive things to say about the user interface and overall visual design in each of them. But this new game finally feels like a breath of fresh air with by far the most personality we've ever seen, since Mario Kart's DS took steps that essentially sterilized the visual identity of the series. And this is evident from the moment the game starts up. While I do like the key art used in previous games, this isn't Mario Kart PNG, okay? It's world. It says world, here's the world, go and explore the world. It's a genius showcase of this game's core concept and the Switch 2's hardware launching alongside it, without the need for any explanation. It just works. And this design philosophy carries over to the lobbies as well. The game has almost no downtime, focusing on, again, the world instead of the world. I think I've already said world about 10 times in this. The visual design at its core rejects the sleek, almost clinical nature of recent entries in the series. Games like DS, 7, and Wii all feel like the UI simply reflects the system it's on, with minimal personality. And while 8's UI is pretty fantastic looking, there's certainly something to be said for the more fun, chaotic nature they're aiming for with Mario Kart World. From top to bottom, the game's identity is about going on a worldwide road trip, emphasized with these tire tracks seen across every menu as a container, and even repurposed as the transition between menus, or the flame iconography specifically used for Knockout Tour to push the feeling of intensity to cross that finish line in time. Road signage is commonly used for various unique icons, and it's worth noting these seem to take specific inspiration from American road signs, in particular these iconic interstate and US route markers, kind of feeding into the trope of an American road trip. It's also interesting that interstate signs are red and blue, and Nintendo have used the same colors here, except inverted. This visual language continues into the designs of the cup selection, and I love how each one reflects a different type of environment this time. For example, the flower cup represents stages themed with heat and flames. That said, some of these icons are a bit misleading about the courses they actually contain. I'm a huge fan of the track icons on the world map too. They used a warped perspective here to show you the track layout as you'd understand it from a bird's eye view, while simultaneously also showing iconic parts of the scenery as you'd understand them from a grounded view. It's a really smart way to make it clear to the player which track they're looking at, even if they're only vaguely familiar with the layout or the theming. Another seemingly small but very important factor is the new font used widely across the game, in the logo itself, and of course as the position indicator in races too, again embracing the series' identity of chaotically fun races. There's also some interesting new colors here, different from the gold, silver, and bronze in previous games. They're now more colorful, with yellow, blue, and orange working as a nearby equivalent, with the addition of another contrasting color on top of that to really make the graphic pop. Of course, in local multiplayer, these are instead color-coded as we've seen before, continuing Mario Kart's signature use of yellow as player one. In fact, it's worth noting just how similar this HUD is to Mario Kart 8 overall. I'm sure to most people this is probably just the Mario Kart layout at this point, but in previous iterations, everything about this HUD has changed significantly. If you want a more specific breakdown of the UI evolution in every Mario Kart game, I have a huge video already covering that, but suffice to say they really have opted for minimal changes this time. That said, there actually are 3 changes that are closer to Mario Kart Wii than anything else. First is the multiplayer color coding in the border of the coin and lap counter containers. This isn't present in any other game, and MK did it by changing the text color completely. I think World's iteration is the most elegant. It's a nice combination of Wii and 8 with a few tweaks. I also want to quickly note that Mario Kart World has unified the animation of these counters. In 8, when you collected a coin, the icon would animate, and when you finished a lap, the counter would flash. Now both counters have the same animation. Another element that combines Mario Kart Wii and 8 is the new minimap. While it looks the most similar to 8, they've reintroduced communicating which direction the player is facing from Wii. I mean, 64 kind of did this by physically rotating the icon itself, but that's a little bit different. The way the minimap has to update to keep up with this game's open design is pretty interesting too, and I'm definitely a fan of the new map in free roam using an alternate camera angle to give you a proper view of the world around you, although this method does mean tall buildings and high roofs will obstruct it, so it does often get completely hidden because of that. The final and definitely biggest similarity to Mario Kart Wii is the new item box graphic. They've returned to the rotating box animation, which is far closer to Wii than any other entry in the series. They're also color-coded in a way most similar to Wii's approach, whereas I think Mario Kart 8's design here was a little garish. I also like the new item icons a lot. Nintendo seemed to be going really hard on using a strong secondary light source to make their renders pop this generation, and I think it's a great look. That said, maybe it just needs to grow on me, but I'm not completely sold on this item box graphic just yet. It's true the circular item box of Mario Kart 8 does contribute to the slightly sterilized look I've criticized a bit in this video, and I do think the move from circles to rounded boxes in a few instances works well for the theming of world. But Mario Kart 8's design for a double item box is far more elegant and space efficient in my opinion, whereas World's design feels like it had less thought put into it despite presumably being built with this mechanic in mind, whereas it was only a later addition in Mario Kart 8's Deluxe. Double Dash also simply copy and pasted the same graphic, but in that game you could rotate to equip either one, so it makes more sense in that instance. Don't get me wrong, it is nice looking overall, but the main problem I have with this item box is a bit less subjective, and it's this weird frame rate desync between the box and the item graphics as they spin. Once the animation starts to slow down, it's fairly jarring, even running at full speed, and I just don't understand why they'd leave it like this. And while I'm being negative, let's talk about this character select screen, although I really don't need to over-explain because I think people have already identified the issue here. The presentation is actually nice overall, and I love how the characters look, although that's something I'll save for a future video. The user experience, however, feels extremely rough, forcing you to scroll through a huge list of unorganized characters and costumes which are treated as equals for some reason. In Mario Kart 8 there are clone characters that take up slots, but costumes are neatly stored in a secondary menu which worked just fine. I can understand trying to emphasize these new costumes and giving the player a clear look at them before selecting, but there's already a huge 3D model of the character right here, so why would this even be necessary? In fact, these icons are so oversized that they actually push the character model off the screen in some cases, which just seems like a badly prioritized use of screen space to me. There are different ways to sort this menu, but it's really just the same design flaws in a less convoluted order. So why would Nintendo do this? Well, I think there's actually three main reasons that make a lot of sense. First of all is the fact this menu is designed so each player can navigate it individually in local multiplayer, meaning unlike Mario Kart Wii or 8, you can pick your kart while the other players are still picking their character, or if someone wants to change their character, the other players don't need to back out and reselect. This actually is a really good quality of life change, although it is worth noting Double Dash already did this in the past. Because there isn't much space for karts on the screen in that game, you scroll through them one at a time, which isn't too bad since that game only had 5 to 8 vehicles to sort through depending on your weight class. In World, each character has access to far more karts, so scrolling through them one at a time like this definitely wouldn't be ideal, and I know this because that's exactly what Mario Kart 8 did, and it really kinda sucked. It does make sense for the kart builder, but I definitely wouldn't want to see it here. So I am glad that we don't need to scroll through this slow list to find the right vehicle, but if we are saying that scrolling through annoyingly long lists is bad, then maybe this isn't the best solution either. Another main reason I think Nintendo designed things this way is because of the console itself. They probably want you to take your Switch 2 out and play it in handheld mode, so for the same reason games like Animal Crossing have such huge text, the icons here are gigantic. They'd prefer everything to be clear on a handheld screen and a little too big on a TV than design everything for the TV and risk it being too small in handheld. Now, Mario Kart 8's icons aren't that hard to see on the Switch 2 screen, but if we were to use Mario Kart World's system of giving each player their own menu, then you can start to see how things would get a little bit small and hard to see. And keep in mind, not everyone has perfect eyesight on top of that. So they wanted each player to freely navigate between the characters and karts, and they wanted everything to be clearly visible on the handheld screen. The result is a menu that can be duplicated 4 times with these massively oversized icons to counteract its own design choice. This makes sense to a degree, honestly, but I can't say it makes me personally like this menu anyway. Even with the logic of the design here, I'd still take Mario Kart 8's character selection over this any day. And for someone like me who will mostly play in single player, online, on a big monitor anyway, World's menu does just feel like a bit of a downgrade. However, I will say that it would be very easy for Nintendo to add a significant amount of content with the way these menus are designed, so that could be a plus going into the future. And turning to the positive side of things. I love these loading animations a lot, they're really awesome. I'll be doing more videos breaking down Mario Kart World, plus I already have one giving an overview about why I'm so excited about this game and why I think it was probably extremely difficult to develop. This is a whole new generation of visuals for Nintendo, which has been a long time coming, so I'm really excited to see what they have in store. But for now, I'm going to go and play Mario Kart in the Alps. Goodbye.